Uber Eats just agreed to buy a bunch of new delivery robots. And when I say a bunch, I mean a bunch. Up to 2,000 of them. What's going on, everybody? I'm Zach Drives Fast for the Rideshare Guy. And in this video, we're going to talk about Uber's acquisition of up to 2,000 delivery robots, what it means for drivers, and whether it's time for us to find a new line of work, so make sure to stick around to the end of the video. Currently, Uber Eats runs this robot pilot program in Los Angeles, but they plan on expanding to Dallas, San Jose, as well as Vancouver, Canada. Uber clearly sees the benefit in non-human partners, but should we worry about it? Let's talk about that. First, let's explore the perceived benefits of this new delivery method. Some believe that these robots have the potential to revolutionize the food delivery space. By using food robots, companies like Uber Eats aim to improve efficiency as well as customer satisfaction. Serve Robotics claims that their robots will result in quicker deliveries as well as a reduced cost for consumers. But how true is that? Serve claims that using robots will be faster as they're able to circumvent traffic, but have you seen the sidewalks lately? They're already packed with abandoned bikes, tree branches, and those pesky e-scooters. And now we're adding robots to the mix? Come on now, it's going to be like a sci-fi obstacle course out there. I was recently in downtown Portland, and while I'm not saying that they couldn't navigate the city, I'd be shocked if they could do it easily or efficiently. There's just too much on the sidewalks. It's important to note, these robots travel up to a whopping 7 whole miles an hour. That's obviously considerably slower than a car. However, I could potentially see a problem here if you have limited mobility or if you're in a wheelchair and a 7-mile-an-hour robot comes charging at you. But back to the benefits. Now, of course, there is one huge upside for food companies with using robots versus humans. Every order would get accepted. And notice I said accepted and not delivered. We're going to come back to that though. Let's not forget, these army of sidewalk congesting robots would still have to be paid for, and that's not going to be cheap. The average cost of one of these robots can range anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000. Who do you think is going to eat the cost of that? On the surface, a huge plus to customers is that no tip would be required. But again, somebody has to pay for these, so is using these robots going to result in huge increases in fees? If that is the case, it might be cheaper to just tip the driver. For as many rose-colored glasses scenarios as there may be, there's potentially just as many, if not more, negatives to using robots versus humans. First, what are the limitations of these robots? Well, a lot. They can't venture onto freeways, thank God, or reach destinations outside of their designated area. Oh, and by the way, their delivery range is 1 whole mile. This would result in a huge loss of choices for the customers. I want to give you a scenario. Let's assume it's Friday night and Clyde and Bonnie are hanging out at home and they want to check out that brand new sushi place that just opened that has all those great reviews. They open the Uber Eats app only to realize that it's out of their delivery range because it's 2 exits down the freeway and 1.1 miles away from them. After all, these beady-eyed little robot bastards aren't going to be able to get on the freeway. Keep in mind, that 7-mile-an-hour breakneck speed that they can reach. Dejected, Clyde and Bonnie realize that their options are a couple of fast food restaurants, a mom-and-pop diner, and the Greasy Spoon joint in their neighborhood. Disappointed, they end up settling for grilled cheese sandwiches at home. Sure, there's plenty of people that live in downtown areas that would have a lot more choices, but I'd argue that that is not the majority of people. Let's jump into another scenario, and this one, let's assume it is downtown. We're in a major city in the dead of winter and a blizzard just rolled through. Everyone's hungry, but nobody wants to go out and get the food themselves. How do you think our little friends, the robots, are going to fare in sidewalks covered with snowdrifts? I'd say unless there was a person in front of them frantically shoveling like those dudes in the Olympics with the brooms. What sport is that? Is that even a sport? They'd be shit out of luck. Anyway, I digress. We're going to see a lot of stuck robots. Now, in all fairness to them, they do claim that these little bastards can operate in all types of weather, but we'll see how they fare when there's 3 to 4 inches of snow on the ground. After all, Apple claims that their phones are water resistant, but you try telling that to somebody who's dropped their phone in the toilet. Okay, back to the weather. Since everybody and their brother within the city are snowed in, I'd argue that most people are going to be trying to order food, and there'd be a massive shortage of robots. But there may be a plus side. It might be fun to sit 14 floors above the city, watching these little bastards try to navigate around, spinning in circles, getting stuck, and fighting with each other. Hell, it might even result in a new reality show called Bots vs. Brains. This scenario brings to mind another not-so-great downgrade for the customer. As drivers, we bring customers food directly to their doorsteps in the majority of cases. With robots, that ain't gonna happen. You get to meet that lazy son of a bitch on the street to go and retrieve your own food. You can forget laying around in your underwear, or even less, and then waiting for the driver to go away and sneak in your food carefully. Get your ass up, get dressed, grab an umbrella, snow boots, a raincoat, whatever you need, and go outside and meet Sidewalk Satan. I mean, this might be a novelty for some, but I'm betting that it would quickly grow old. Think people with limited mobility, people in apartments who don't want to climb flights of stairs, or an area that's raining buckets. It doesn't sound quite so heavenly now, does it? All of this reminds me of a quote that I read from Ali Kashani, the CEO and co-founder of Serve Robotics. Now imagine if the cost of last mile logistics was so low that restaurants could send food in fine china and silverware. Similar to room service at a hotel, the robot would wait to return the dishes at the end of the meal. We could create new experiences that are similar or even better than dining at a restaurant, and do so with less cost and less waste. Yeah, just imagine. Because the customer is definitely going to want to clear all of their dirty dishes and haul them back downstairs onto the sidewalk for a waiting dishwasher on wheels. This reminds me of a Tinder date that I had once. After a delicious meal at her place, she asked me if I would mind doing the dishes while she did something else. I mean, I did partake in the meal, so I said yes, but that was the last date I had with her. Same with customers. If they're ordering out, they're not going to want to do any freaking dishes. And what about the possibility of cracked or damaged china when the robot hits an obstacle on the way to the customer? Both the customer and the restaurant would love that, wouldn't they? It would definitely be cheaper to just tip a driver than to replace fine china. And what about all that downtime for the robot while it patiently waits for the customer to finish their meal and return the fine china? I would think that that kind of service would cost the customer a premium fee. Now, if this was Rosie from the Jetsons, who could patiently wait for the family to finish their meal and then discreetly go and clean it herself and then drive it back to the restaurant, that'd be one thing, but that's not the case. The customer's doing the work. In this scenario, the customer doesn't have to go to the curb once, but rather twice. The first time to go and get their meal, and the second time to return their dirty dishes. How convenient. But I digress. Let's take a look at the general logistics problems that food delivery robots would encounter. While delivery robots sound futuristic, it is important to understand their limitations. These robots are designed for sidewalk operation only, which would drastically limit where they could be. Delivering to more remote areas or an area with bad sidewalks would still require a human driver. There are several potential challenges that these robots could face in urban and rural areas. One potential issue is navigating complex city streets and crowded sidewalks. These things are going to have to be able to navigate around fire hydrants, strollers, bikes, skateboards, kids, and pets, all while adhering to traffic laws. And let's not forget the dynamic nature of city streets, where a high level of situational awareness is required. How are robots going to do it crossing busy intersections? How are people going to handle sharing the sidewalk with these unpredictable machines that jerk side to side all of a sudden like they're having a freaking seizure? I'd imagine it's not going to be too long until one of these cuts off a bicycle, sending them flying into traffic. What about railroad tracks? Not only railroad tracks, but city transit tracks. I could see the potential of these getting stuck on the tracks. In fact, there's a video of one of these getting hit by a train and blowing up in a violent and dramatic manner. What if they encounter a sudden detour? Are they going to know where to go or what to do? We've probably all seen the viral video of one of these food delivery robots going through an active crime scene. This just goes to show that conditions in any neighborhood can be dynamic and ever-changing. Not to mention, it also shows that robots do not possess critical thinking like people do. Additionally, they need to identify as well as reach complicated or hard-to-find addresses. If that robot can't reach the customer, then guess what? They're still going to get a refund. But there's another challenge that companies face that we've yet to discuss, and it's huge. Delivery robots face a hurdle in the form of different legislation throughout the country. The laws can be drastically different everywhere, from your local government to the state government, making a national rollout nearly impossible. One state might say that a robot can go 5 miles an hour, while the next says 10. One state might say that they can be up to 50 pounds, while the next state says that they can be up to 100. This means that if companies like Uber Eats want to continue to roll out robots in new places, they're going to have different models for different areas of the country. Imagine how expensive that is going to get. Not to mention, all of this takes an insane amount of time, as sometimes it can take years for legislation to get passed. Needless to say, this would be a huge undertaking if it can be accomplished at all. The prospect of these travesty on wheels can be a scary prospect for drivers, as it means fewer opportunities for us. It's a little intimidating. I won't lie. And while delivery robots might increase efficiency in select markets, it's probably not a reality in the majority of markets. The legislation and infrastructure limitations are vast. Additionally, human drivers can deal with unexpected scenarios being thrown at them left and right, something that a robot just can't do. With all this said, If you're a driver in an area where these robots are rolling out, it may require you to change your strategy slightly. Alternatively, you could reconsider your delivery area. If you haven't done so yet, please do consider pressing the like button and subscribing to the Rideshare Guy. You can catch my videos here every Tuesday. If you enjoyed this video, you can check out this video where I talk about common problems that Uber Eats drivers face and how you can fix them. I'm Zach Drives Fast for the Rideshare Guy. Take care.